The EIDL loan program is EIDL. That's Economic Impact Disaster Loan. Now, what's important about this loan is that it is an opportunity, as well as a way to get relief for your business immediately. And I'm speaking to many businesses, especially those in underserved communities, most minority-owned businesses. 57% exactly have 0 to 10 days of working capital, and so that means that every night that we do not get these resources to these entrepreneurs, we're seeing doors close, not just because of the pandemic and people are not patronizing them, but they're closing for good. So this is very urgent. This 0 to 10 days is very critical for those communities. And then on top of that, 90% of most minority-owned businesses don't have any employees. So I want to talk about that too as we go forward. But I want to first, as we talk about this EIDL loan, it's important because it allows you to get a loan of up to $2 million at an interest rate of 3.75 if you're a business, but also because this is a disaster, SBA is also serving nonprofits. This is incredible expansion of our authority. If you are a nonprofit and you're listening to this or you have one, it is incredibly important that you understand that you can also participate here at a lower interest rate of 2.75. So let's just give an example. Let's just say you're looking for $25,000 to help your business out right now. You can go on SBA.gov, click on the disaster button, and then you'll be able to get a $25,000 loan. You can apply for it. And the first $10,000, if you have 10 employees, that's the key word. If you have 10 employees, if you have less, it'll be reduced accordingly. But if you have 10 employees and you apply, you can get $10,000 in 72 hours. That is a $10,000 advance direct deposited into your account in 72 hours because you have those employees and you requested $25,000 from SBA. Now, that $25,000 loan becomes a $15,000 loan because that first $10,000 you do not have to pay back. That becomes an advance that turns into a grant. So that is your money. You do not have to pay it back. So that remaining $15,000, let's talk about that. Because for many businesses, especially businesses in underserved communities and minority communities, getting access to capital has always been a challenge. Many people always tell me, Ashley, that when I go to the bank and I ask for money, they won't give it to me unless I can prove I don't need it. And this is an opportunity to dramatically expand the amount of businesses who previously were not in the credit market. Because this particular loan, with this example I'm giving you, is going to allow you to request that $25,000 or $15,000 if you got the advance without having to put down collateral, without having to sign a personal guarantee. Now, most of our businesses that are listening right now know that if they went into a bank a year ago when times were good and the economy was booming, to go into a bank and ask for a $25,000 or more loan with no collateral at a 3.75 interest rate, and then have the ability to have that loan not have to make the first payment for 1 year, meaning if you got the loan today, you would not have to make the first payment on the loan until 2021 at this time. But then on top of that, to make sure your cash flow allows you to use this loan wisely to grow your business, to get out of this hole, but also to grow your business, you do not have to, you can stretch this loan out for 30 years like a mortgage. That's an incredible set of terms that do not exist in a normal marketplace. So for those business owners out here who are thinking, I've never had a loan from a bank or never had credit, this is an exceptional opportunity to go to SBA.gov, take advantage of this opportunity. If it get some portion of that advanced money, but also apply for the loan if it can help you get out of this hole, but also plan to grow. And that's what loans are for many times, is to get you out of immediate problems, but also to grow your business so you'll have more money. So you're not worried about paying it back the loan because the loan helps you make more money. Now, that is, in essence, the EIDL loan. Now, on the other side of this is a loan that goes directly through our lenders. And as I've spoken to mayors around the country, this is one that we're reliant on our lending community specifically. So this loan, you go directly to your bank to get information about, but I'm going to tell you the overview today. The Payroll Protection Program is an extraordinary tool passed in a bipartisan fashion. And I want to, thank all the members of Congress that have been supportive of this. I'll be on a call later today, probably with some of you with Congresswoman Sewell and others. This is an extraordinary opportunity to help get people off of unemployment. It's critical because we have millions of people who are unemployed right now. But this is a way for them to at least get a paycheck. If you work at a restaurant or somewhere public facing and the doors are closed, this is a way for you to still get a paycheck, even though you may not be going into work every day. So what this does is allows a business or a nonprofit to take their payroll, their average monthly payroll, multiply it times 2.5. And once you multiply it times 2.5, then that is the amount that you can get for this payroll loan. And if you do one thing, that one thing is keep everybody employed during the duration of the loan to the end of June. If you can just keep everybody employed, or let's just say that February 20th, you had to let off 10% of your workforce, or 15 people because you couldn't afford them. You can go back and hire them. And as long as you keep them on payroll using this money that the bank is going to give you, then 100% of that loan becomes forgivable. And what you can pay for outside of payroll, up to 25% of your loan can go towards rent, can go towards utilities, insurance premiums, and those sorts of things to help pay for your overhead during that time, which can be an incredible resource. So that can become forgivable, and that's an incredible product provided by your lender. So if you are a business, that was available to you April 3rd, which was Friday, but for 90% of minority-owned businesses and many of our businesses that we work with in Alabama, especially in Montgomery, are a lot of businesses that are sole proprietorships and independent contractors. And that's a huge portion of the small business community. Now, your day to apply for payroll protection is going to be Friday. So Friday is the first day that you can go to the bank and ask them for assistance. And we're working closely with our lenders, and our director of the Alabama state director for SBA is Tom Tote. He works for me. Tom is running the shop, and he's doing everything he can to keep a running tab of all the banks that are still accepting applicants. So if you want to reach out to your SBA office, if your bank, you want to go to where you bank, but if you go to your bank and your lender says for whatever reason that they're not taking more applicants, then go to SBA and we'll make sure we have a list of who is accepting applicants. And we're trying to increase that list every day. So as we go forward, we're going to try to increase it to make sure that CDFIs are participating, that fintechs are participating, that your credit unions are participating. So make sure that you do that lead work. Don't wait till Friday. You probably want to start calling now to make sure you can find out who is making themselves.
Administrator Bell, if you can hear us, we lost you for a second. You cut out.
Oh, sorry. What part did I cut out on? I apologize. Well, I'll close out with this part. If you can hear me before I open up for questions, I was saying if you're an independent contractor or you are the sole proprietor, make sure you contact your bank this week before Friday to make sure they're having this program available to you. And with that, I'll open it up for questions. Can you hear me? Can we open it up for questions? Hello?
There we go. Will the SBA website have the list of the local lenders in our area? Or where can we find that information if the bank that we're currently have our business account is not accepting any applications? Where could we find that? Is it on the website, SBA website?
Yes, you can get the list of local lenders from SBA, but the key here is which lenders are participating in this program still. So that list is changing on a really real-time basis. So what we'll want to do is, you'll want to make sure you call an SBA, and I know Tom Tote, our director, is on this call, and you can reach out to SBA. We're going to do our best to make sure we keep a running tab of those lenders. And also we're going to be working with your mayor's offices and state government as well to make sure we're keeping tabs on who actually is accepting new applicants. Thank you for that question.
Mr. Bell, this is Liz Sutton. Can you hear me okay?
If we can, Administrator Bell, if you want to continue with your presentation, if you have other things to share, and we will certainly then get to the questions in just a little bit during the Q&A session. So if people have questions, if you can just hold off, and Administrator Bell, if you can, finish sharing what you need to, and then we'll certainly take those questions.
Well, that's all I was wanted to finish up on, which is letting people know as we look at Friday coming, because Friday is a day that independent contractors and sole proprietors can apply. The one thing I wanted to also add is that Saturday, there was a tremendous shift in SBA's focus. The administrator, working with the president and vice president, decided to increase the mission and scope of this program to include churches. And I think that's important because we never before in the history of SBA has SBA given a loan to a church. We've done nonprofits, we've done chambers of commerce, we've done different entities that have a nonprofit mission. But as you know, right now, our small churches, especially those that don't have online services, are struggling tremendously. They are having a hard time staying open and paying their bills. So for those that are hearing this today, make sure that, I'm sure that many of my people in the faith world did not see this call as important or relevant to them. But please share that information and let them know that starting now, that any church can apply for the Payroll Protection Program as well and have their salaries of church staff as well as utilities, rent, and some mortgage interest paid during this time. And that's an unprecedented expansion of SBA's role. And so we hope that we can continue to work with lenders to expand this program because every day we're seeing more and more people in need. So with that, I'm clear, Mayor and team, to open it up for questions.
And before we jump to that, we do have Todd Etheridge, who's the Executive Vice President of Trustmark Bank here in Montgomery. And we're just going to ask him to share a few words just from the perspective of a local lender. And then we'll go ahead and open it up to questions for either the mayor, Mr. Etheridge, or Administrator Bell.
Hi, this is Todd Etheridge, and I'm not quite as polished or as accomplished as Brother Ashley, but I'll tell you the few things I do know. We're going to focus on the PPP. That's the portion that the banks are involved in, and tell you why we're involved in it in the first place. And I'll just go back to a little banking 101. Banks are in the business to make money. It's what we do. We buy money through deposits, and we sell it in loans. And so that's how we make our money, through deposits and loans. And like any entity, there's risk in what we do, and the risk is primarily on the loan side. So anytime that we can hedge or mitigate that risk, that's more attractive to us. And so this PPP does more than hedge it. It eliminates it for the most part. 100% is going to be paid by the SBA. So by all means, the banks, we're very interested in being a part of this. And I don't have nearly as much time as Brother Bill, but I will mention this also in general. We make our money by serving our communities, and we have not always done that as well as we should. That's just a fact of life. And by getting to more of the community, we can have more profits and have the community develop, because we mentioned a rising tide lifts all ships, but if you're anchored down, you don't want to get overcome by the water. So it is our mission to make sure that we reach all communities, those who've been served and those who've traditionally not been served as well. And this is a great vehicle to do that, especially this time. I've got a couple of people on the line with me from a bank, Heather Phillips and Vicki Griffith. So when we do ask questions, they may answer some more of the specific parts. But as far as Trustmark, we are a preferred SBA lender. We are participating, and we, like many companies or many banks, have decided to take our customers first. We're going to take prospects. We haven't decided when, and that was simply a logistical decision. We've had a huge number of our customers. Now, what we've decided to do is we've taken a very liberal look at what we consider customers. We've had people who have had no business with us, but they've come and opened an account, so they're immediately a customer, and we will go ahead, and if you have anything existing, both personal or business, we're taking that. If you got a safe deposit box, savings account, if you've got something with us, we're calling you a customer. And then if you come in and open an account immediately, we're telling you you're a customer. And we do ours through a portal. The actual application is done online through our website. Just go to the trustmark.com, and it's prevalent at the top of the website. And what we're trying to do is keep our local lenders from getting too involved in the process, because it is a very specific process doing online. So it is pretty simple and easy. In fact, I think we had something, we're in the top 10% in ease of use for this program. So if you go to our website and apply, it's very simple from that point forward. Again, I think I just had 3 minutes, so I'm going to yield back. But just to recap, we are part of the program, just because of sheer logistics and volumes, we limited it to our customers. So we're taking a very broad view on what we consider customers. We do it electronically, and we're trying to keep the local people out of the process so that it can go through much faster, much more smoothly. So I'll yield back, and we'll wait for any questions when they arise.
Thanks, Todd. This is Stephen Reed. I want to thank you again for participating. I know a question was asked, may have been asked of Mr. Bell, who were some of the local institutions that were participating. We have a list that I will just read to you very briefly, and then we'll make sure that we share the list with everyone that's on the call. But the institutions right now that we have that are taking new customers
Is Mayor Reed still there? We lost him.
so you'll have these names and you can consider what choices to make yourself. But this time we certainly want to open up the conversation, any questions that you may have of Mr. Bell, myself, and even Mr. Etheridge.
Mayor, this is Ashley Bell. I think we lost you right when you got ready to list the names, so I don't think anybody heard them. So you may want to just list those again.
Okay, thanks so much. I apologize for that. If everyone can hear me, I will go back and go through the institutions that we know are taking new customers. And in no particular order, they are Navy Federal Credit Union, Hope Credit Union, Max Credit Union, Wood Forest National Bank, and Trustmark. Institutions that may be taking new customers are Hancock Bank, Liberty Bank, Service First Bank, Synovus, CB&S Bank, Oakworth Capital Bank, Renaissance Bank, and Valley Bank. And what we'll do is we'll send out this entire list to everyone that's on the call so you can make your own individual decisions based on those that we know are taking new customers and those that have shared with us they may be taking new customers under certain conditions. So we'll make sure we get that out to everyone. And at this time, if there are any other questions that we want to open it up to for Mr. Bell or Mr. Etheridge or myself, we can do that at this time.
And yeah,
Yes,
we've
sir.
had a few come in through the chat, so I'll start to just call out names in order, based off of who has messaged in. So Liz Sutton, if you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, thank you so much for this meeting today. Question I have is there a point person at SBA that can answer specific questions about the PPP loan in regards to number of employees and if they have to be fully employed for 8 weeks between now and June 30th, or is it the entire time from April 1 to June 30th? But more importantly, we're running into a challenge. Last year was a big year. This year was smaller, so we didn't have as many people starting in January as we normally would have. So when they say it has to be the same number of employees, we're trying to get some of those nuanced answers so that we can respond to our employees.
That's a great question. Thank you for that question. And first, I do want to recognize Tom Tote. So if you have any questions after this call, Tom is the director for SBA here in Alabama, so you can reach him as well. But to your point, is counting those employees that are on your payroll. So whatever employee payroll costs, so that's what we're counting. So what that cost is on your payroll, that average monthly cost, and they're going to multiply that. Now, if you're seasonal, if you have opportunities where different parts of the year you have different payroll amounts, they're going to go back and look at I think it's February 15th of 2019 to June 30th of 2019 as a window to kind of look at what was your payroll during a good economy and at that time. And if for whatever reason that window does not work for you, then the window shifts to January 1st of this year to the February 29th of 2020. So either window is what they're going to use to try to figure out where's the best snapshot of your average of your payroll.
Okay, and then as far as a point person, you're saying that Tom is the person that we should reach out to.
Yes, you can reach out to Tom.
Great, thank you. And the only other question I'll just mention is we also have the option for unemployment for a portion of time. And how does that impact the PPP? And I don't know if in some cases unemployment may pay more than what we're paying. So I get stuck between the middle of I'm trying to do the best for my employees. So
no, I completely understand. I completely understand, and this law won't affect that, but you do want to make sure that you reach out to your state labor department to make sure that they can tell you the best way to proceed on that. So that's the state labor department can give you those answers.
Thank you so much.
Great, and the next question we had, David Lamb, if you're on the line, if you can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, this is David. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, great. My question is, we've submitted the form on the SBA website for the immediate 10,000, but that was over 8 days ago and we've not heard anything. Any help or advice on why we haven't heard anything or received the funds? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's a great question. The initial SBA website, and you should have got an email about this. You may want to check your spam on this, but we did have some complications because of the massive amount of people that came on board. The SBA website has a whole new platform now. The process has been completely streamlined. Did you get a confirmation number for when you applied?
No, I don't think we did.
Okay, so if you
application number.
She said we got an application number. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, well, that can work as well. So if you did get an application number, what we'll do is we'll make sure you get that to Tom, and we'll reach out to disaster office and see if your application was submitted before the SBA platform had to be reconfigured. Obviously, we've never had to process that many applications at one time because the applications go into one national platform, so it's not one specifically for Alabama. So the entire country was going online at the same time. So to answer that question, you could have submitted before the platform change, which means you may have to resubmit, and we're going to get the answer to that for you. So we're going to get Tom on that to make sure we reach out to you. Tom Tote is on the call. Tom, what's a good email for you so folks can reach out to staff? If you could let Tom unmute so he can let folks know how staff can be reached. Well, Tom's on the call, but this is what I'll do. I'll make sure that we get Tom's information to the mayor and the office number to the mayor. So we'll make sure we track that down for you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Rob Reynolds, if you're on the line and want to ask your question. Rob, if you're still on the line, Rob Reynolds, and want to ask your question. All right, well, we'll go ahead. Rita Lewis, if you're on the call and want to ask your question. Rita Lewis.
Yes. My question was, if we have a sole proprietor, we have two business, a couple of temporary employees that we have, like 1099 employees. Is there a minimum amount of employees that, I heard the conversation about the EIDL and that PPP program, but if it doesn't seem like we fall under that category, how do these programs benefit the sole proprietors without employees or with, let's say, two employees, two 1099 employees?
So thank you for that question. And so there is a distinction. So as I mentioned earlier, a lot of our businesses do not have employees. So if you are a sole proprietorship and you do not have W-2 employees, the first day for you to participate in the Payroll Protection Program is going to be this Friday, April 10th. Now, that does not preclude you from immediately applying for a disaster loan through the SBA.gov website. So that's important. So for the PPP program, they're not going to include 1099s as employees. So for people who you have as who you're not paying taxes on, that you're just writing 1099s for, you're not going to get that inclusion as an employee. And the reason is those people are going to take their 1099 that you're giving them, and they're going to go apply themselves for this exact same program on Friday with you. So if you have employees, absolutely count them if you're paying taxes on them. If you have 1099s, you won't be able to count them, but you still can. There is no minimum. You still can apply for the EIDL loan on SBA.gov, as well as you can still apply for the PPP program through your local lender.
Okay. So,
Great. Tiffany Taft, if you're on the line and I want to ask your question, Tiffany Taft.
Yes, good morning. My question is, I'm a sole proprietor owner draw, and since you have so many different banks offering the service, I'm wondering if there's any standard documentation that they're all asking for so that we can be prepared.
Well, how about I let my friend at the bank talk about his application process.
This is Todd. For any business, we need basic information, articles of incorporation if you're a corporation, if you're a sole proprietorship, just your registration with the local counties. But anything that delineates you as a business that you would use for any other forms, that's all we need. Nothing beyond that, but just the standard documents you need. That answer your question?
Yes, so no P&Ls, a business plan, none of that.
Not for this process, no. Just to establish a relationship. You will, though, have to send that through the portal. But to open the account, to open an account with us, we'll need that to open the relationship. But then once you start the process, that information will be attached and sent on to the SBA. And you will need that as part of the process. But to initially open an account, no. But as part of the process, yes.
Okay, so I think I was asking for the next step, but I guess that would come in a package from the specific bank that we build a relationship with.
Yeah, well, and for us in particular, if you go online, it lists the things you need that you will need, and it's basic stuff you ask for, the P&L, balance sheet, those basic things, yes.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Great. Wanda Jones, if you're on the line and want to ask your question.
Yes, thank you. We're an S corporation, and I applied for the EIDL loan back on March 22nd. And since then, I've also applied for the $10,000 advance. And I sat on a call last week with the SBA for about 2 hours, waiting to speak with someone to see where I was in the process. And according to them, they said that I was past the under review process and waiting for a loan officer to contact me. Well, I have not heard anything, and it seemed like there's a communication gap between SBA and the folks who applied for the information. So I just need to know what next steps that I need to do to try to get this moving, because right now it seemed like I'm just waiting. And then also,
Okay, go ahead.
And also yesterday, I was able to get back into the website, and it said to complete the certification process, and I completed that, which was no more than the same form that I had completed for the $10,000 advance.
So tell me, how many employees do you have?
Actually, majority of my employees are 1099, but I had business ready to go to hire additional resources for a staffing project that is coming up to get those folks trained to send them out on the ground to work at my clients, because 100% of my business is out of the state of Alabama or out of the city of Montgomery. So we travel to our clients, and with this,
right,
of course, we can't travel. So
right, and you're right, exactly. So just to try to help answer some of these questions. So First, the $10,000 advance is going to be for businesses that immediately show that they have 10 employees or more. And that's something that probably is not been communicated perfectly. But if you don't have over 10 employees, then that money is not automatic. That is for businesses that have 10 employees. When I say employees, W-2 employees or more is what triggers that $10,000 advance. And so when we look at, and we've increased staff dramatically through the last version of the CARES Act to try to get the call time down on the calls. Obviously, we've had upwards of 100,000 people calling our phone lines at a time. And so we try to, because once again, these are, when you call for your loan, that's not your local SBA office. Tom Tote and his folks down in Birmingham are not the ones picking up the phone. That's your SBA office. They can be helpful. They can track down things for you. But you're calling the headquarters for disaster more than likely either in Dallas or Atlanta, because everything at the disaster level is nationalized. It is a huge database, 2 data centers that are underwriting these loans. And so your local SBA office can, on your behalf, work with us to try to track down particular issues. And we field all those calls from mayors and try to find out what the issues are. So as far as that's concerned, you want to make sure you try again, because we just increased that staff. Hopefully you will have a quicker time to get through there. And there's an email address as well now that is sending out replies very quickly when it comes to when you input your application or loan number to see where you are with the status of your loan.
And I do have 2 administrative employees, and of course, myself as one for the corporation. So the new standards came out, and I understand that they're only given so much per employee, but the number is 10. So I understand that. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Horatio Lee, if you're on the line and want to ask your question, please.
Can you hear me now?
Great. Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, sir. I have 2 questions. The first question is on the EIDL. I understand if you don't have 10 employees, about the $10,000, but you still can apply for that loan. Could you explain, I know it wouldn't be forgivable. Can you explain the process of that loan again for people who do not have 10 employees?
Correct. Happy to, and thank you for that question. The EIDL loan is available for you, whether you have 0 employees or yourself as a sole proprietor, and no matter what level or size of your business, as long as you're under 500 employees. So that loan can go up to $2 million. You can apply for it with or without the advance. And that loan takes about 2 weeks to process to get your final approval and then get funded. So it's about a 2-week wait on that is what we're looking at right now. That money is funded directly from SBA. It does not go through underwriting and closing like similar process it would be a commercial bank. So that loan is at the 3.75 interest rate for a business and can be deferred for a year. So if you get that loan now, you don't have to make a first payment on it for a year. And then you can stretch that loan out up to 30 years depending on your circumstances. But that's how that loan is processed. And if you currently have an SBA loan, you can get the principal amount of your loan and the interest paid right now through SBA because of this disaster. So make sure if you currently have an SBA loan, reach out to your lender and make sure that they're making sure that SBA is paying the interest and the principal on those loans for you for the next 6 months.
Okay, now follow-up questions. What can that loan be used for?
I think it may be easier to explain in what you can't use it for, because you can use it for normal business expenses, but there are a couple of things you can't use it for. You can't take the loan and consolidate any other debt. So you can't you can't restructure debt with that loan unless it's the PPP loan. So the PPP loan, a lot of folks are getting their EIDL and then they're rolling it into their PPP. Those loans can work together, but you can't pay off an existing debt. You can't make a prepayment on an existing debt. But you can't pay any normal periodic payments on any obligation that you have, general business expenses like rent and utilities and leases and all that sort of things that go along with the day-to-day operation of your business. That's fine. You just can't you can't reorganize debt, and you cannot buy a building with it. You cannot buy a physical structure with it. Could you buy equipment? Yes, but can you buy an actual physical building? No.
Okay, my last question is on the PPT. If you are, I guess, self-employed, your LLC, say you're a 2-member LLC, does that apply to you if you do draws and you don't pay yourself by W-2?
Yes, you would go in as a sole. I mean, depending on how your LLC is situated, right? If you individually as members could probably go in and apply as sole proprietors Friday. That would probably make the most sense under LLC.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we have time for a few more questions. Melinda Jackson, if you're on the line. Well, I'll go ahead and read her question in case it applies to other people as well. We submitted the application with our bank because we have an SBA loan already. Are there loans that can change the rate of your current loan? And also, we haven't heard from PPP and EIDL. Should we reapply?
So to answer the question, a couple of parts. You know, on the EIDL part, if you did apply very early, you're talking about mid-March, you may need to apply again, and you want to reach out to them to make sure and check your spam to see did you get an email asking to reapply. Reapplying for the EIDL is not a problem. That won't trip you up. What you don't want to do is apply to multiple banks for a PPP loan. That would be a problem because it could totally drastically delay your processing because you would have to get one canceled before you could proceed with the other. Now, the PPP program, what was the second part of that question, that last part?
Yeah, the last part was if they haven't heard, should they reapply?
Right, and then I answered the other part already, but I do want to reemphasize that person clearly has an SBA loan right now, so you can get that. You can get the principal and interest of that SBA loan that you currently have paid by SBA at this very moment. And if you have a question with your PPP loan, you want to contact your lender. Do not reapply anywhere else. That will cause you a lot of problems. Make sure you work with your lender directly on that application. The PPP program is directly facilitated through the lender, so you want to make sure you reach out to them.
Great. So if there are any remaining questions, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead and ask if you haven't been called on yet.
This is Liz Sutton. I did have another question I posted. What kind of documentation will be required June 30th to secure a confirmation that the loan is forgiven? And
okay,
do utilities include electric, rent, electric, water, garbage, data, phone, and is there anything else? I just don't want there to be any surprises after June 30th that, oh, that's not covered, or oh, that's not covered. And we understand it can't exceed more than 25% of the loan forgiveness.
Okay, good. So for those that don't know about that, I want to make sure they understand it. So if you get a $100,000 loan for PPP, $75,000 of that has to go towards payroll, and 25% that can go towards utilities. To answer your question directly, utilities is broad, but the good thing about this is that the SBA has delegated authority completely to the banks. So your lender is actually the person that's going to make the call about whether or not you complied with your obligation. And that primary obligation is to make sure that people are still employed. That doesn't mean you have to keep everybody the whole time. If you need to fire somebody or let someone go for cause, that's fine. You can replace them with someone else and still be fully eligible. But you're going to need to show that you're able to have everyone still employed that you started off with to be a main, checkbox of making sure this loan is forgivable. What was done to make this work is a very good partnership with Treasury and the banks. The banks are making the decisions at the local level. So that's why this relationship with your lender is so important. The banks determine the eligibility. We've told the banks that, hey, if you make a mistake with eligibility, we will hold you harmless. to that. And you're going to also make a determination about the forgivableness of the loan. If we did not do that, banks would not take this risk. We had to remove that risk from the bank so that they would feel comfortable lending this money. So your lender is the one who's ultimately going to make that determination. And the lender has every incentive to make sure that he or she gets it right on the front end, because otherwise that means that you have 2 years to pay off that loan to them at 1%, and they don't want that liability. So hopefully those interests will align, and your lender will be very clear with you about the terms and what particular utilities they're going to allow to be included in the loan.
Thank you. That's so helpful.
Thank you for the question. Is that it, Mayor?
I think it is. Listen, I want to thank you for the work that you're doing with the Small Business Administration. Certainly in your role as a Region 4 Administrator, I think it's very important that we have access to you as well as your state of Alabama contact and administrator here. But I want to thank you for taking time out to speak to our business community and some of our entrepreneurs here in Montgomery. And really thanks for answering some of the questions. And I know there may be others who could not join the call. We do plan to post this on the city website and Facebook page so that those who weren't able to join can come and listen to it at a point where they may be more convenient for them. But Mr. Bell, I want to thank you for really answering these questions and digging deep and addressing what you can and what you can't do, and really giving us a good sense of how to make sure that we're proactive in our approach from the government side, and our businessmen and women can be proactive from the private side. And I want to thank Todd Etheridge as well for giving us a lender's perspective, and Trustmark for being very open and taking on new customers. I know not all banks are doing that. That's very important, that we understand that we have some local partners here who can facilitate, along with some others, credit unions and some other banks that are also doing the same thing. So I just want to thank all of you all for really helping to make this phone call productive. Hopefully it was informative to those who were able to join and participate, and for those who can listen in later.
Mayor, I just want to say before we get off, I want to thank you for your leadership. As I said, outstanding service what you're doing by applying, calling these banks and seeing who's available for folks on the call today. That list is golden. So I appreciate that. I want to work with our SBA to make sure we work to keep that relationship going and those lines of communication going. Again, thank you for offering this service to the folks of Montgomery. Anything I can ever do to be supportive of you and to the small business owners of Montgomery, please don't hesitate to ask. We're just excited about your leadership, excited about the great things you're doing in Montgomery, and 100% support you, and everything you need from us, please let us know.
Will do. Thanks so much, and thanks everybody for joining the call. Now we'll conclude this conference call. Good luck, stay home, and stay safe.